and thanks for joining me again on another episode of MTV Monsta TV. And today we're going to talk about how to select a good quality paint and what you should be looking for when you are selecting your paints. This comes up often, obviously, because Monsta make paints and we sell paints and we talk to lots of people out there and we do a lot of the professionals. We've been taking account of some of the better painters out in the marketplace, particularly the commercial and full-time painters out there that are servicing the building industry, and they've been telling us what you should look for if you're a DIYer or doing a reno and doing your own paint job. So firstly, one of the key things you are looking for with a good quality paint is a paint that gives you good coverage and opacity. Now, opacity means that when you apply your coats on there, you can't see through it. So you want to ensure you've got a full uniform coverage on the surface, and obviously you'll put a first coat on sometimes and you'll see that you might be able to see through that, but the second coat should be total block out. That's very, very important. Now, there are times when you might be using a light coloured paint over a darker surface. If you're going over maybe an older wall that could be quite dark, you may need a third coat sometimes. It doesn't reflect that the paint is poor quality. However, when you start to put that second coat on, you should start to see a uniform blocking out appearance. And a lot of the cheaper paints out there, you'll find that when you put that second coat on sometimes, you can still see shades of the surface behind. So very, very important to understand that. And that's what you're looking for. The second piece, which is a real big one, is washability. And sometimes painters will say the burnishing resistance, but let's keep it washability. We'll keep it low and not too technical today. So this is when you are cleaning walls. So think of areas like bathrooms, kitchen areas, kids' bedrooms, hallways where dirty hands go or marks are. And when you clean that wall, the impact that the cleaning has on the gloss level that you've chosen, or the sheen. So if you've got a semi-gloss or a low sheen or even a matte wall, the higher the gloss levels, they are often deemed to be easier to clean because they are shinier, or deemed to be shinier. But a good quality paint will allow you to clean the wall, even if it's not a gloss. It could be a semi-gloss or a low sheen, and you can still get the consistency of the appearance that you're looking for, not that it's actually gone or faded. So obviously some areas require some good scrub resistance and good washing to remove any of those marks and stains. If it's got good washability or good burnishing resistance, then you'll find that the product will, the paint surface will retain its original look that you wanted, and that's a good sign of good quality paint. These are questions you can ask where you're buying your paint from. And if you want to ask our Monsta crew, we can help you with that as well, because all our paints are ensuring good wearability and washability resistance. The next piece is one that painters brought up, and this was an interesting one because it's often overseen by consumers, but it happens quite often when we're doing a reno or a DIY job, and it's the consistency, the strength consistency of batches. Now, you might think that's more to do with the manufacturer, but what a couple of painters have told us, and it's true when we've spoken to renovators, is that often when we plan our painting, we tend to err on the side of caution, so we don't go and buy extra of what we don't need. And so if you run out of a colour or you run out of a paint, and then you have to go and buy more to match that, or you might have the job split that you're doing part of it now and another part of it in a month or two's time, and you're not going to buy all the paint right now. As you know, you can go to a paint shop, or you come to Monsta and you get the colour, and then you want the same colour again. You can get the same colour, but it's the consistency of the paint. And so if you find that it varies slightly, whether it's the strength of the colour or the consistency of the paint and the way it works and it applies, that can give you not just a shade difference, but also a slight finish difference because of the texture that can be applied when it's down with a roller. These are common things that many of the professional painters tell us is very, very commonly seen with cheap paints in the marketplace, and so that's the one you need to really look at when you are comparing. You might go, oh, I'm going to save with a paint grade here, or I'll just use this brand because it's going to work for me. It gets the colour I want. But if you find that it's not giving the finish or a consistent finish, then you're going to end up with having to do the job again, and it costs you more. So check that out. It's very important. Good paint companies have good quality control procedures in terms of what they do to test before it goes out in a can and to the consumer. So very, very important. The last one that comes up from the painters, they call it rheology. I'm not going to go and even try and spell that word for you, but good rheology is more about the consistency and the workability of the paint. So, those of you that painted before, and I've done this often, you pour the paint in a tray, you wet your roller out, you start to roll it up the wall, and if you've got really bad spatter resistance, you find that you've got paint spattering all over your face or over your clothes. A good paint minimises that. So when you actually are putting it on with the correct roller on a wall or on a ceiling, you're getting minimum spatter. And so that's what painters look at to judge a good paint. Very, very important. If it's too thin when you're loading the brush, you'll find that it tends to run or it spatters off quite a lot. And this is also seen when you're cutting in, particularly around cornices or architraves on walls. That is commonly seen with the type of what painters call rheology, but let's call it the workability, with minimising that spatter. And it gives you more time for rolling between coats. And so you actually get a good wetting of the edges, what they call that wet edge finish and that wet edge of application between coats, or where you've actually cut in versus where you're going to roll over that. That's an important one. I'm going to go through one more now, which is about paint selections and about not getting sidetracked on when you're buying a paint from a store. If you come to Monsta, it's a little bit different, I'll explain in a moment. But if you know, even in a hardware store or a paint store, you'll see maybe a brand of paint that has 3 or 4 different grades of that paint that you can buy. One is for bathroom and kitchen, one's got super hiding power, one's antibacterial properties. And sometimes consumers, if they're not educated or aware of it, end up buying 2 or 3 cans on the same colour, but because they think they're going to go with a certain white shade of white for a bathroom, the same as they want outside the bathroom, they buy the bathroom paint and then another paint for outside. And you ended up probably with 2 cans that are left over halfway through. The reality is, a good paint should be able to do all rooms and all the bells and whistles. And that's what we do with Monsta, with our makeover paint. We have all those properties in the one grade. And you can use them anywhere. They're safe to use in children's or baby rooms, bedrooms, corridors, living areas, wherever you are, for either ceiling whites or what we do on walls in all the different sheens. And they come with the super hiding power, the anti-bac property, and the bathroom and kitchen where it handles mold resistance, etc. So really important to be aware of that, because you can find that when you're going to select your paints, in selecting a good quality paint, you found that you bought more paint than you need, you get annoyed, and actually then you find that you're trying to match or mix different paints up because you might be found you've got half can paints left. And so that's also one to look for when we talk about quality paints. Be aware of that. Don't be fooled by all the bravado of some of the marketing geniuses out there in hardware stores. Do your research. You can find that out. You can minimise your cost. Save dollars on your reno. Very, very important. Put those dollars towards something else you can use and make it count. That's all for me on this episode of Monsta TV. I'll see you next time. Ciao from Chief Monsta.